welcome students. So now, as a last part of discussion on the cash flow estimation, we will learn practically with the help of a simple example. We will practically learn about that how the cash flows are practically worked out. And when we are going to work out the cash flows here, we are going to work it out for the from the perspective of the total funds or the explicit cost funds, not from the equity or the debt. So, and for the further discussion, you can refer to any book on the project management. Best book on the project management is by Prasanna Chandra, and that's a very good book, and that would give you a very simple and clear view of the overall facets of the project management. I am also following that book, and this problem is also from that book as well. So that would be a really very helpful source of information. You can use other books also. Other foreign authors also have issued the books or come out with the books. There is a one institute, Project Management Institute. They have some series of the books also. But if you want to learn the project management in a very simpler and best possible manners, then Prasanna Chandra is a very good book on the projects or the project management. And especially the project finance, when you want to learn in detail, that is going to be a best book for you. And I'm also following the book, and we are going to learn this problem in detail about the cash flow, say working out or estimation of the cash flow. And we will like to learn about that when we work it out from the perspective of the total funds or explicit cost funds. So how we go ahead with and how we take the different information into account. So you can see here that the problem is something like that Media Enterprises is considering a capital investment project about which the following information is available. The investment outlay on the project is 100 millions. Mind it is a very important information for us. This consists of the 80 million on the plant and machinery and 20 million on the net working capital. It means the total investment requirement, total outflow on this project, cash outflow on this project would be of 100 million. 80 million would be on the long term assets and 20 million would be required for meeting the working capital requirements. The entire outlay will be incurred in the beginning of the project, in the construction period or the zero period, you can say. Entire amount will be going out. So it's a complete outflow of the 100 million which will be going out in the beginning. Number two, the project will be financed with rupees 45 million of equity, right? Now this is the sources of funding. 45 millions of equity and 5 millions of the preference capital and 50 million of the debt capital. So it means total requirement is of the 100 capital. So 45 million will come from the equity shareholders, the real owners of this project. 5% will come from the preference shareholders and 50 million will come in the form of the external funds, which will be borrowed funds in the form of the debt. Preference capital will carry a dividend rate of the 15%, right? Dividend rate of 15%, and debt capital will carry an interest rate of 15%, right? Next, the life of the project is expected to be 5 years. This is a foreseeable life of the project. It is expected to be 5 years. At the end of the 5 year or year 5, fixed assets will fetch a net salvage value of 30 million, whereas the net working capital would be converted into cash or liquidated in full amount. So this is 30 million will be coming back from the fixed assets, maybe as a salvage value or a scrap value, because the total investment we are making in the fixed asset is how much? 80 million. So 50 million will be exhausted and will be consumed and will be say taken care of through depreciation, and the balance amount of the salvage value of 30 million would be recoverable, and net working capital will come back. Net working capital of the 20 million will come back to us in full, will be realized in full. So terminal cash flows would be how much? That would be 50 million. The project is expected to increase the revenue of the firm by 20 million, right? So it means every year the project is going to add to the existing firm, because it's a project going to be owned by the existing firm. So 120 million of the revenue would be added by the project per year, and increase in the cost on account of the project is expected to be 80 million. So the cost would be 80 millions, and this will include all items of the cost other than the depreciation, interest and tax. The effective tax rate is 30%, right? Plant and machinery will be depreciated at the rate of 25% per year. So depreciation also you have to calculate. So they will be depreciated at the rate of 25% per year as per the written down value method, and as a result of that the depreciation, annual depreciation would be something like 20 million in the first year, right? 25% means 20 million in the first year. It's a written down value method, so it will not be 20 million but 15 million in the second year, 11.25 million in the third year, 8.44 million in the fourth year, and fifth year would be the 6.33 million, right? So, on the basis of it, what is required from us, or what is expected from us, that forecast the cash flow for the given period. Say forecast the project cash flows for the given period, means for a period of 5 years, right? So, this information is given to us, information with regard to outflow, inflow, cost of the funds, sources of the funds, and the life of the project, the initial investment, the operating cash inflow, and your this terminal cash flow, everything is given to us, and on the basis of that we will have to work out the total cash flows, net cash flow for this project, and try to find out that how the cash flows are normally worked out, and how this cash flow estimation process takes place, and how we go ahead with this. So, we will go for the working out of the cash flow, project cash flows. So, we can start here, we are writing here estimation of project cash flows. Estimation of project cash flows So, we have to prepare a statement here like this, and for this purpose we will have to take the particulars, you call it as particulars, and then we have to take the years here, right, particulars and years. So, in the years we will have to take here the 0, 1, 2, that is 3, and this is 4, and this is 5. These are the 5 years we are going to take here, and in this case now we have to make the total information we have to fill in. So, first of all we will have to talk about the, say, cash outflows, right. So, when we take the cash outflows, so we will talk about the initial investment. So, initial investment has to be done in what? Say fixed assets investment, fixed assets investment, fixed assets investment we are going to make, and this investment we are going to make in the 0 period. So, this is going to be the investment in the fixed assets. For this investment, because it is going to be outflow, so it is the investment, and this is going to be how much? This is going to be 80 million, right, and we are going to write here the investment is in the rupees million. On the, we are going to write only once, this is rupees millions, the investment is going to be, this is 80 millions of investment, and then is the net working capital investment, or we call it as the investment in the net working capital, investment in the net working capital. So, this is going to be how much? 20 million of the investment we are going to make in the working capital, and in this year nothing is going to be done here, nothing is going to be done here in the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it is a construction period and it is only going to cause the cash outflow, not the inflow. Now, next thing is we are going to talk about the revenues. So, this is going to be the revenues, and for the revenues purpose, if it was given to us, nothing, no revenue will come in the 0 period, but the revenue will come in the first year, that is the 120 million, again 120 million, 120 million, and it is going to be 120 million, and it is going to be 120 million of the revenue is going to be there. And then we are going to take into consideration the cost, right, cost of the project, and this cost is the other than the depreciation, other than depreciation, interest and tax. This is the cost other than depreciation, interest and tax, and this cost is going to be how much? 80 million. This is 80 million. In this, depreciation is not included, interest is also not included, and the tax is also not included. So, this is going to be the cost for us. So, this is the cost part, and finally, we are going to take the next thing is the depreciation. We are going to take the depreciation, depreciation is going to be how much? Nothing here and nothing here. So depreciation is given to us at already. So this is 20, this is 15, this is going to be 11.25, and this is going to be the next one. Next depreciation is going to be how much? 8.44, and this is going to be 6.33. It is already given to us. Depreciation is already given to us. So this is the depreciation, right? After this, there is no other expense. Interest we will not subtract, right? Interest we will not subtract because this is the project cash flows for the all the stakeholders, including the lenders also. So we will not subtract the interest here. So now we will calculate the profit before tax. Profit before tax. And for this, calculating the profit before tax, we will have to take it up. So when you calculate the profit before tax, so we are going to take here nothing. And when we see here the profit before tax, so what are the two costs here? First cost is the 80 and this is the depreciation 20. So the profit before tax is going to be something like that, 20 here. This is a PBT in the first case. And then we talk about the profit before tax is going to be how much? 25. Then profit before tax is going to be 28 point something, 28.75, right? 28.75. And then we are going to calculate the profit. If you do it, 31.56, and then we are going to take the profit as 33.67. This is the profit before tax. So first is the profit before tax is 20. Then second year profit before tax is 25, 28.75, 31.56 and 33.67, right? Then we have to take the tax component here. Tax component, nothing here. So we'll have to take what is the tax rate given to us. The tax rate was given is, I guess it is 30%. Tax rate is the 30%. So we will have to take that 30% as tax rate. So this is going to be 6 million. In this case, it is going to be 7.5 million. And in this case, it's going to be how much? 8.63 million. This is 8.63 million. This is going to be 9.47 million. And lastly, it is going to be 10.10 million, right? This is a tax rate. Now we have to calculate the PAT, profit after tax. And for this, nothing is going to be here. So profit after tax is how much? For calculating the profit after tax, this is going to be 14 million. This is going to be 17.5 million. This is going to be something like 20.12 million. This is going to be 22.09 million. And this is going to be 23.57 million. 23.57 million is going to be our profit after tax, right? Now we have to take the net salvage value. Terminal value we are going towards. Net salvage value. Net salvage value. Here is going to be how much? Net salvage value is going to be nil, nil, nil. And for the fixed assets, so we are going to take the net salvage value, and this is for the fixed assets, right? So I am putting in the bracket. This is the fixed assets, and this is going to be how much? 30 million is going to be the net salvage value. 30 million we are going to get back from this, and then the net salvage value for working capital, right? Recovery of working capital, or you call it as net salvage value, or you call it as the, say, recovery of working capital. That would be a better term here. So for this purpose, you have to take the recovery of working capital. Recovery of working capital. So this is going to be how much? This is going to be 20 million. This is 20 million is going to be the recovery of working capital. And what is now the initial outlay? Initial outlay is how much? Initial outlay was 100 million. This is the 100 millions of initial outlay. So nothing in this. And then we have to take now the next thing we have to take here is, this is going to be something like operating cash flow we have to work out now. Operating cash flow. Operating cash flow we have to work out. So operating cash flow is how much? is going to be in the first year, operating cash flow is going to be something like operating cash flow in this year is going to be how much? This is going to be if you sum it up, operating cash flow, if you take it up, the total outflow and inflow, so operating cash flow is going to be 14 is the profit after tax, and how much is the depreciation? This is 20. So 20 plus 14 is going to be 34. This is the 34 million is going to be the operating cash flow. Then it's going to be how much? It's going to be 32.5 million. Then it's going to be 31.37 million. And this is going to be 30.53. And last one is going to be 29.90 million, right? So how we are calculating this? For this purpose, you have to take this profit after tax, PAT, and then you have to take the depreciation part. So it is 20 plus 14, 34. You are taking 15 and this 17.5, 32.5. Then you are taking here this 11.25 and 20.12, 31.37. Finally, it is 30.53 and 29.90 of this total amount we are calculating operating cash flow. And then we have to take the terminal cash flow, right? Then we have to take the terminal cash flow, and terminal cash flow is going to be how much? Terminal cash flow is going to be 50, because terminal value is going to be 50 here. So we have taken this value. So this is going to be 50. Terminal cash flow is 50 here. And finally, we will have to calculate, after the terminal cash flow, we have to calculate the net cash flow. Net cash flow, and net cash flow is going to be how much? 100 million. This is the outflow. And finally, this is going to be how much? This is going to be 34, right? And this is going to be how much? 32.5. This is going to be 31.37. 31.37. And then we are going to calculate it how much? 30.53. And then we are going to work out how much? 50 plus 29.90. This is going to be 79.90. This is the finally your net cash flow. And if you want to calculate the book value of the investment, book value of investment, then it's going to be how much? Initially it was 100, then it came down to 80 after depreciation, then it came down to 65 million after depreciation for the next year, then it came down to 53.75 in the next year, then it came down to 45.31, like that. So it's going down, means that total depreciation is getting down here. So it is 45 point something like that. And from this 45.3, if you subtract the 6.33, so finally this will be the residual value for the next year. So in this whole case, you can understand here that how we work out the cash flows. If you see the cash flows here, so you can say that we are starting with the total investment. So on the top, we are taking the initial investment, right? This is the initial investment. This is the first part up to this part. And then we are working out the cash flows. So for calculating the cash flows, we calculated the operating cash flow. This is the second part. And then we calculated the terminal value. This is the third part, right? This is the second part. So we are calculating these different values. So fixed assets, say this investment in the fixed assets, net working capital investment, revenues. Then we are calculating the cost here. So cost is given to us 80. This is other than depreciation, interest and tax. Then depreciation, profit before tax. Then we are taking tax here. Then profit after tax. So here we start the process of working out the cash flows from the profit. So when we have calculated the profit after tax, and in this we are adding back the non-cash expense, which is depreciation and which is 20. So 13 plus 20 plus 14, it's becoming operating cash flow 34, 32.5, 31.37, 30.53 and 29.90. And finally, the terminal cash flow we worked out, which came up as 50 million only, and net cash flow was, the outflow is 100 million and the inflow is 34 in the first year, 32.5 in the second year, 31.37 in the third year and 30.53 in the fourth year and 79.90 in the fifth year. So this is your cash flow. And finally, the book value of the investment, if you want to calculate by subtracting the depreciation from this initial investment. So initial investment was 100, and when we are depreciating this, so it is coming down to 80, and then it's coming down to your 65, because total investment we are making in this is the initial investment. So it is going to be final this amount. This is going to be in the first year. At the end of the first year, is going to be 80, 65, 53, 75, 45 and 45.31, and accordingly you can calculate for the subsequent years. So this is the entire cash flow we are taking into consideration. And when we are talking about this total amount of this entire amount of this particular investment we are going to make, that is the total outflow as well as the inflow, when we are going to work out the investment as well as the operating inflows coming out. So we are calculating the operating cash flow first, and to arrive at net cash flow, so you have to take into account the operating cash flow, then you have to take the terminal cash flow, and finally you have to sum it up, so it will give us the final net cash flow. And that net cash flow is going to be 100 is the outflow, and inflow is 34, 32.5, 31, 30 and 79. So finally, for calculating the net present value from these cash flows, 100 will be taken as 100 as the present value, but you have to discount at the given cost of capital 34 for the year 1, 32.5 for the year 2, 31.37 for the year 3, 30.53 for the year 4 and 79.90 for the year 5. So we have to discount them, calculate the present value, and then we have to calculate the NPV by subtracting the summed up value of the summed up present value of all inflows, and then from this value we have to subtract the cash outflows of 100 and find out the NPV. If it is going to be 0 or more than 0, then it's fine, but if it is going to be less than 0, maybe negative, then we will have to abandon the project. So this is how we can calculate, you call it as, when we calculate the cash flows of a project, maybe a simple project, it is the simple information which was given to us. So estimation of the cash flows of a simple project, how we can work out. And normally, as I told you in the previous class also, we calculate the cash flows this way only, right? We do not segregate it. We do not dissect it for the equity or for the debt providers. If we want to do it for the internal control, we can do it for the internal control. But for any external purpose, if you want to go to the funding institutions or the venture capital providers, or maybe you want to give a presentation to any external stakeholder, you have to prepare this kind of the cash flow statement, and from this cash flow statement only you have to maybe try to impress upon the funding sources that this much of the total investment we are going to make in the 0 period, that is the 100 million of investment would be required, and over the years, after paying for all the expenses and everything, having revenue, a given amount of the revenue, and after paying all the expenses, our operating cash flow would be this much, and then adjusting for the terminal cash inflow, final net cash flow would be this much, and the net picture of the cash flow and outflow and inflow would be this much. And when we discount these cash flows against the cost of capital or required rate of return, so the net present value, you call it as. Finally, you have to calculate the NPV, or you have to calculate the IRR, right? So NPV has to be minimum 0, and the IRR has to be, maybe you call it as internal rate of return has to be maybe equal to minimum the required rate of return, RRR. Internal rate of return, that is expected, you call it as. Expected rate of return has to be equal to the required rate of return. Then only we will go for this venture, otherwise we will not go for this venture. So in the normal course, we estimate the cash flows this way, and this is going to be the final picture, and the total cash flow, inflow and outflow, and final net cash flow as well. So for this moment we will stop here, And in the next class, we will start talking about is the very important concept now, and that important concept is the concept of the cost of capital. Right, it's a very important concept, cost of capital, and we have to understand it because finally, for calculating the discounted cash flows or maybe the NPV of the project, you need something which is called as R, and R is basically the discount rate, right? This is the discount rate. So, discount rate is going to be the basically cost of capital. So, for understanding the concept of the cost of capital in detail, and what are the different sources of the finance which say carry the cost, which do not carry the cost, and how to calculate the cost of capital for different sources, what is the process of carrying the cost of the debt, what is the process of carrying the cost calculating the cost of the preference capital, and finally what is the process of calculating the cost of equity capital, we will have to discuss in detail. And finally, we have to learn about that when we calculate the weighted average cost of capital, which becomes basically the discount rate, how we go ahead with this and how we calculate the weighted average cost of capital. And finally, for the different individual sources, how we go ahead, how we calculate the cost of capital for debt, equity, and preference capital, we sum them up and calculate the weighted average cost of capital. And in this entire process, there would be something very interesting and useful to know in the course of learning about the cost of capital is the flotation cost, because some sources have the flotation cost and some sources do not have the flotation cost. So, how the flotation cost is worked out, why the flotation cost is important, and how it influences the total investment to be made in the project. So, this all we are going to discuss in the next class. So, the next class onwards, for a few classes, we will discuss the concept of the cost of capital in detail, and then we will move to the next important topic, then that is the important topic of the risk analysis of the capital investment projects. So, till then we will stop here only, and I hope this estimation of the project cash flows is clear to you, and you can refer to the different books or different maybe other sources, and there you can practice by calculating the cash flows for the different projects on the basis of the given information. And if you want, you can dissect it for the equity shareholders and for the say lenders separately, and then see that where we take into consideration the interest and where we do not take into consideration the interest, and how the cash flows for the different stakeholders, debt and equity, can be calculated. But largely your purpose will be served, or in the practical sense, we calculate the cash flow for jointly for all, for the total funds invested in the project, and this is the process of working out the project cash flows. So, with this we will stop here, and from next class onwards we will start talking about the cost of capital. Till then, thank you very much.